gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe are assembled the most powerful group of cybersecurity heroes ever assembled. Ray of Sunshine, Hot Rod, Brody Man, Big Head Ed, recorded April 7th, 2025. Good afternoon, Ray. Good afternoon, Rod. Good afternoon, Brody. What's happening?
Good afternoon.
I don't know what to do at this point.
I liked all of the nicknames except mine.
Brody Man?
It was Brody
What
Man.
was mine again? What was it? Cod Rod? What was that?
Hot Rod.
Hot Rod.
I don't know.
Ray of Sunshine, Big Head Ed, and the Brody Man.
Yeah.
Brody definitely human.
Brody exists. Yeah.
And he got the thing.
You have your Tinkus hat. Oh,
I
very
got my
nice.
hat. Gary said I look like an elf.
Ray, did you get yours?
I forgot to message
Yes, I
you.
did. Yes, and my daughter stole it because it was so amazing and incredible. But I have not yet worn it for public consumption, so I have
Just
to
private.
rectify that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
private.
Me too.
Rod lied to me. He didn't send my hat. That's okay.
I took a picture. I sent it to Henrik.
You said what?
I mess up the hair. I can't put it on right now. I mess up the hair.
Isn't that awesome how this show works? We have good friends over in Denmark and they just want to give us hats.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool. We got to get together as a show and go to another country. I wish that Canada. We won't have to wait that long. It'll be just like we won't need to.
You can come to Canada. Hey, watch it.
I was asking somebody about Montreal, but anyway, Ray, what's up?
Hey. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Let's see. Chasing after my 6-year-old, putting together trying to close out my capstone. So chugging along there, right near the finish line. And then also putting together some proposals for conferences with titles such as Clippy's Got a Glock. Did you like that one that I circulated? So that's pretty kick-ass. So, nobody steal it. Nobody
Got a
steal
Glock.
that.
Okay. You didn't see me immediately respond. I'm like, man, Clippy's got a Glock, huh?
Listen.
I forget who sung that song though. Rod,
Huh?
you own it. That's a song. That's a famous rock song.
Clippy's got
No,
a gun.
Janie's got a Glock. It's not Clippy's got a Glock.
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Could
not
be a
the
good cover,
lullaby.
though.
I
Janie's
grew
got a
up
gun.
with,
There you go.
yeah.
I saw some of the stuff. It's clever. I love the titles. I didn't respond, not because I didn't like them. Like I have no idea where she's going with it. Then I realized whatever you do with your phone, when you embed something, right, it looks like it's a static image, but it was when you click on it, it's everything. Now I think you have your entire abstract. Something came up. I said, okay.
Yes, there were two proposals that I put together. Yes.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry today I didn't get back to you. My apologies. I'm definitely interested in doing it. I'm just looking at my calendar. I think the way that I thought you were going is that we were going to do like a little role playing, where each one of us act like one of those individual personas.
With the Tinkus hats. Yeah.
I don't know where this conversation is going.
I mean, we'll sit here,
Brody Man looks terrible.
I'm just gonna back out of the conversation.
it could be
Brody's
something
got
like
the crazy eyes. Yeah.
everything I ever wanted to learn about cybersecurity, I learned in a brothel. I mean,
Oh my lord! My ideas include safe browsing, browser middlware,
like virus protection.
Oh boy.
It's all just above board. I promise. Just
Here
clever
the
type.
real, and here we all of it, just like that. Hey, we have
Not
fun.
here, part of
But hey, we're gonna sit down and power through it. I've been doing reporting, so there were great ideas for the abstract. We just need to see them flesh them out. Knowing you, if you already wrote the abstract, you probably already got everything written out. I just need to read.
No, I need help with the proof of concept with the POC. I want to use ASR rules because they've been giving me headaches in my day to day. So I would love to do and then leverage agentic AI because I don't know ASR rules. They just are bothering me. And so I wanted to at least one of the proposals is focused on them.
I'm pretty good at ASR stuff. I can between myself and How many folks we know that know it? We can figure out what it is. Or we can just hit Frank up. Big shout out to you, Frank. Call me, man. Need some investment advice. Buy on the dip. Yeah, so my apologies to Noodle. If you're listening, Noodle, I've blown off. Yeah, Noodle and I've been trying to work on this Cribble thing, and I keep double booking and triple booking. I have to do my job. It's amazing how certain things come to reality. Brody was right 2 years ago. I am a salesperson.
You're never gonna let me down, eh?
That wore me down. Yeah, I'm pretty much that.
Every episode for 2 years. Brody
so we had this discussion today. You know, everybody, if you work at Microsoft, you are a salesperson, no matter what.
Right. You could be a salesperson with a defined and deliberate number. Or you could be a salesperson by association, but you're a salesperson. No, we doing those. I'm sorry, Ray. Were you done? My apologies.
Am I done? Yes. That was the extent of my activity this weekend. Thank you so much. He's part of the cancel culture. Oh, Noodle. Oh, that's clever. That's good.
Yeah, and my fault, Noodle. I don't ever think I don't appreciate the time you're taking off, dude. I just gotta get my together. I got all the environment set up like you told me to do. So the VM and all that stuff there. God, you forget how much you learn from the basics. Where knowing a hypervisor, I used to know a hypervisor expert level. Now I'm mulling around in it because everybody's telling you to use cloud, 365 cloud machines or Azure VMs and stuff. But I wanted it on premise because I want to test the theory. But I promise you, Noodle, not next week, but the week after. I've set aside learning days and we're going to do it. And I promise you this, Noodle. You heard on the radio here, guys. On the radio. If I cancel our next meeting, Noodle, I will fly to the UK and do it with you in person. I will jump on that plane and fly right over to where you are and say, whatever you are, and we'll do it together. So,
what radio station is that on, by the way? I want to flip that on.
WMSI Pod. Where you get all the cast you want. There you go. There you go. Brody, for a man with a little bitty child, you look very rested. Why?
I slept yesterday.
That'll do it.
Sleeping is good. Good. What did I do over the weekend?
Obviously, yell at a hockey game.
I cleaned up my backyard, because it was beautiful out. I got up to 20. Which is ridiculous, and because it was like snowing like a week ago, and I got to clean up the yard and prep the garden, and we're going to make a space for baby girl to have like a special play area, and that was really nice. And then I did all kinds of things that weren't on a computer, and then also played video games a little bit in the late evenings after my family was asleep. So it was nice. It was a nice weekend. And at work, overall, we've been full throttle on one particular customer, and we're getting more into proactive instead of reactive, which is fantastic because we've been killing it as a team. And so that's slowly calming down while my other project is awakening from the coma that it's been in for the last little while. It's kind of funny how all that works. And I've been getting involved in like a really high level RFP and working on some pre-sales, Edward. Pre-sales, where for its money. Yeah. So don't worry. I'm getting there, and I'll probably be there soon. More so. So yeah, things are good overall. I finally have time to answer some emails this week. It's been good.
It's called Copilot. It's amazing. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what they put in that stuff, but it's good. It's just the right amount of artificial intelligence in it. It's good stuff. I love it. Love it. But I was really asking what you do technically. That's fine.
One thing I'll talk about technical. So we're working on a lot of Azure infrastructure as related to this one project where it's Greenfield's Azure Landing Zone, CAF 3 deployment. And we finally were able to work with the Microsoft product team that's in charge of a reporting solution called CCO Insights, which was originally a Power BI desktop reporting mechanism, but now it's cloud dashboard enabled for early adopters. And it's going to assist my customer with reporting on Azure policy compliance better than what's built into Defender for Cloud or other reporting mechanisms, and still allow folks who are in the business, in air quotes, who are not on the Azure ecosystem to be able to review how certain aspects of this business are compliant or not compliant, right? Which is great because you have to have an Azure account, air quotes, with some sort of read access to be able to go to Defender for Cloud and review these reports otherwise. And not everybody in a particular business needs that level of access. So this Power BI environment would enable them to not only look at policy compliance, but it also has all kinds of other reporting capabilities as well across different aspects that they may explore expanding to. So once I have more of a demo set up and it's working, I could showcase some of that, but maybe I'll put it in the show notes. I want to give a shout out to the CCO Insights team because it's currently a solution that's in play for some major government and S500 customers. So it's highly helpful and useful. And that's a new thing, I guess, a new technical thing that I'll be working on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
You said something interesting. I'm gonna run it by Ray first. It's
just one thing.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Rod.
I want to sit down and have a brainstorm with all you guys. I had a very, very good conversation. Don't think it's for the purview, no pun intended, of our general audience. It has to be us. It was very deorientated. When I was talking to the person about it, I said, I'm gonna talk to all my podcast brethren and see what they think about this. But what if I told you all of our careers, as you know, are going to change here? It's going to change. It's going to be.
What are you releasing into what media are you?
Edward, yeah, and you cancel all of our meetings anyway. You don't even show up. Like Noodle, don't worry, he does it to us too. So, you book that meeting and tell us about how.
What do you mean? I don't cancel meetings. I just don't make them. That's
go ahead and book a meeting,
creating them,
and invite everybody, and we'll be there.
AI did it. I didn't do it.
Sure.
I said AI create a meeting based on my utmost good intention, and it doesn't. Then if I cancel, I'm like, well, that's you didn't know my intentions. There you go. No, Noodle, stop it.
Are we stirring the pot of noodles? Noodle.
Yeah, I'm in a noodle.
That was good. So good. That was good.
Oh, Noodle, I played the 21 hours of The Last of Us Part 2 on the PC this weekend. I can count the things that's probably going to scare me. Virus and fungus movies sort of unnerve me. That whole thing unnerves me. I don't like
that whole thing.
How's this for a segue? It's springtime, and I'm excited to get back on my bicycle. And speaking of cycling, I think we have a guest who has cycle in their name. Rod, could you tell us more about them and bring them onto the screen?
So gifted.
Yeah, we do have, and in fact, I love this company name. If they can explain where it came from, in my mind, I've already construed this whole story that it's like one of the Transformers. It's
it's a bicycle transformer that merges with other bicycles to form a bigger transformer that rules the world. That's where I think it's going to. Absolutely.
We want to welcome Nathan and Nicholas from
Cyclotron.
And you almost need to use a Transformers voice. Do it, Brody.
Cyclotron. Transform. Yeah. There you go. You're welcome. I'll go on mute now.
Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting us.
Hey, don't be modest, Nathan. So we have Nathan and Nicholas from Cyclotron, one of Microsoft's premier security partners. Misa. You New Yorkers are always correcting people. In the South, you don't correct people. You let it go. You go, then you just talk behind their back.
I know. I was like, I'm not being a delicate human in this moment. I was like, it's Misa. It's
Misa. It is whatever Maria Thompson says.
I was just going to say, I don't want to get in trouble with Maria Thompson.
I do not want to get in trouble with Maria. Not at all. But anyway, Cyclotron, which I did say correctly, it is a cool name. I actually sort of know the history. I created it also. Is one of Microsoft's go-to partners. I've used them several times as far as everything related to security, XDR, Sentinel, and they deliver. It looks like they're extending their skills into a few other, nuances that are in the Microsoft ecosystem. But before I do a huge, injustice on trying to introduce our guest, I'd like to go ahead and let Nathan and Nicholas introduce themselves. Nathan, Mr. Berger, you go first, sir.
Thanks for having me, guys. Nathan Berger, Director of Security Professional Services at Cyclotron. Cyclotron is a Microsoft-managed, enterprise-focused Microsoft partner. Specifically, we cover pretty much everything. I know it's kind of frustrating when you talk to a Microsoft partner for the first time. They're like, "Oh, we do everything." It's like we kind of really do everything. We have a really established security practice, which we'll be talking about mostly today, and we also have a products practice, sometimes branded Cyclotron Labs. Nicholas Geil, I'll let him introduce himself in just a second. But then I'm not going to talk about this for the rest of the podcast, but I'll mention it once. We have a very mature collaboration practice for SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and more. We have a very mature Azure practice, just a ton of thought leaders. Gary Bushy was on the podcast a few times now, and we've stolen him and hired him for Sentinel work. We have just so much more that we do. Pretty much anything Dynamics and anything Microsoft 365 and anything Azure we cover. I'll let Nicholas introduce himself before I just start talking nonstop.
Hey everyone, you're going to hear a lot from me later on in case you miss my voice. However, hello everyone. I am head of products here at Cyclotron. I direct the products practice, and I'm also the original developer for a product that I will be showing today called Cyclotron Beam, which is the world's first IDP migration platform.
So bicycles now have laser beams. This is cool. I can't wait to see. In all seriousness, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us. And it does sound like you have a extensive portfolio. So I will try to hone back on the Cyclotron name jokes, but no promises. I am interested in learning more and welcome you to the show.
We'll settle it right away. Our founder describes this best. His name's Amber, but we are a cyclotron is a particle accelerator. It's a very, very fancy type of particle accelerator. I've got the Wikipedia page pulled up here to keep myself honest. But I like to describe it in super simple terms. We help accelerate our clients' solutions using Microsoft capabilities. So we are all Microsoft all day, and we have quite a lot there. But I do like the laser cat methodology. I might just start telling that to customers instead.
Nice. Yeah, just update the Wikipedia
Now,
page.
is
Let me know. I
Cyclotron-
can help you with that.
Is Cyclotron a particle accelerator or a particle collider?
Particle accelerator.
All right.
It is what according to the Wikipedia page right here, and also what I'm hoping my knowledge is accurate on my own.
They're interchangeable. That's the physics nerd in me coming out. So, well, yeah.
Okay.
Edward, no gotchas to our guests. That's rude. Come
They just
on.
our friends. Hey.
Can you tell we might specialize in Microsoft security rather than physics?
That's true. That's true.
There you go.
Well,
There you go.
Yeah, I think we were wondering about that because you're on the Microsoft Security Insights show. What areas do you actually cover besides cool names, and particularly in the security space? I'm unfamiliar. Edward seems to know a lot about you all, but I'm unfamiliar. So let me educate me.
Yeah, so we break our practice into kind of 4 to 4.5 areas, depending on how I describe it. The first is everything related to threat protection. So in this case, we have practice that is focused on Sentinel deployment for SIEM and SOAR. We have Defender XDR deployment. We have all the other 14 threat protection products that Microsoft has, like Defender EASM, Defender for Cloud, Defender for IoT, and more. That's all within one segment of our practice. The next one is our compliance practice, which covers everything Microsoft Purview, and I mean everything. It's Purview in Microsoft 365, it's Purview in Azure, it's Priva, it's really any add-ons that are there. We take that really, really seriously. That's a huge exploding part of our business I want to talk about later. The third one, we group our identity and devices practice into one. Entra and Intune are so tied together that we have amazing identity and device architects. They implement everything related to core Intune, core Entra, Intune Suite, Entra Suite, integrations with Cyclotron Beam, which you'll see in just a little bit, Windows 365, Azure Virtual Desktop, customized frontline deployments for retail, for healthcare, et cetera. Really, probably an offer for every major vertical that we work with, but quite a lot there. And then our fourth practice, you can see why we have 4.5 here, is mergers and acquisitions. So just due to the nature of how large scale impacting, IT impacting mergers and acquisitions are, we group that into our security umbrella and put security as a primary focus in those. So this could include content migrations for things like Exchange, but it also usually includes Active Directory consolidation, divestiture, and more. We also do cloud native migrations, which is something I will never shut up about, is like, let's get rid of Active Directory as a whole and shift to like Entra only. We also do a few other things there, zero trust assessment, security solution assessments, all under that umbrella. So really broad set of portfolios that we do. I think we cover like 40 to 45 offers at any given time.
Nice.
And that's
Can Active Directory ever actually die, though, Nathan?
No. Actually, it can. So a lot of our customers have been doing that. We've been critical of that journey among several, really all of the major steps, just not always all of them with each customer. Sometimes customers bring us in because they're like, hey, we want to, get rid of AD GPOs. Sometimes they bring us in, they're like, we want to decommission AD, right? And there's a huge staged journey to that. I've got a blog on our website. I've seen some of the materials that Microsoft themselves have put out on it. It's that whole road to the cloud journey, right? But I'm doing us an injustice here because I'm not letting Nicholas explain the product side of the practice, which is a whole nother thing. So Nicholas, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. On the product side, we develop, believe it or not, products. And all of them have to do with, securing the Microsoft cloud in one way or another. We have several products that we develop here. Our most mature platform, the one that's been in development for 4 or 5 years now, is a product called Teams Hub. And that is a total automation and governance platform for Microsoft 365 for governing just about everything that you could do in Microsoft 365 in or outside of an API. You can do right from Cyclotron's Teams Hub product. Another product that is our newest product in the lineup is one called Captain. And Captain is our compliance as a service companion application. And so what that's all about is just putting together all of your compliance statistics, your alerts, your everything related to Purview all under one pane of glass. And it allows our team to actually go in and both monitor and respond to your alerts. And then, of course, the star of the show today is going to be Cyclotron Beam, which is the world's first IDP migration platform specifically designed to accelerate your move from Okta to Intra. And there's going to be a lot of discussion about that.
Very cool. I'm so addicted to acronyms. I thought Beam was going to be everything all at once or something, but just Beam is just because this is what you're doing, right? It's just hyper focused.
Yeah. So the Beam name there comes from the idea that we can accelerate that move from Okta to Intra so fast that it's kind of like beaming all of your identities and apps from Okta to Intra.
Okay. Oh man.
It's clever and it tickles my fancy in the right way, and so it's stuck.
So I'm sitting here listening to you all talk about all the things you have and the different coverage you have. It's almost like a security buffet, if you will, because there's everything. You don't even have to skimp on anything. A lot of people these days, they're trying these elimination diets, but no, you go to Cyclotron, you get the whole buffet.
Smorgasbord, even.
Smorgasbord, I love that word. Yeah.
I know you guys are. I've interacted with some of your colleagues and everything else. And not a single person have I not met that is extremely skilled at Cyclotron, including our friend Gary. You tend to hire the best people. Someone say that you're poaching people from Microsoft, taking them away. I didn't say it. I'm just saying. That's how you know you're good, right? You got that Jerry Jones in you from Dallas. I can go buy me a championship. I got to do it that way. But hey, you guys are super KQL heavy, and you have to be to sort of do the things that you in the depth that you are at Microsoft. But I heard you sort of picked up a bad habit of learning KQL from somebody's book. What book did you use that gave you the worst?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. So I listen to this podcast pretty regularly. Not every episode, but I try to do the best I can to stay up to date. Especially if I got a long flight ahead of me, I'll download them scrambled, for the last 5 minutes that I have internet connection before the plane takes off. Remember, I got to listen to what the latest is today. And so Rod mentioned in one of the episodes that he was writing a definitive guide to KQL. And I thought to myself, oh, damn, I really need to get good at KQL. And I was like, oh, I forgot I run a team. Maybe my whole team should get good at KQL. So I threw out a volunteer, scenario. I was like, hey, how many of you guys would be interested if we got all the books for you and went through this exercise together and just like tried to go through as much as we can in the book. I'd frankly 600 pages. We're not going to get through the whole thing. It's too comprehensive. But I did ask, and we got a set of volunteers. I got about somewhere between 12 and 15 people who participated on our team, and we ended up all getting the book together, all pulling it up. And for the span of about 12 weeks, we did all the exercises together, which was just like a super cool exercise. So shout out to Rod Trent here for writing that book that ended up teaching our team a lot of really practical use cases for Defender, for Entra, how to use KQL. And I really think it demystified it, because before I'd bring to my team, I'd say, hey, we've got these custom use cases. And some of them would be like, oh, I can do that via script. And other ones would be like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And, some junior, some senior engineers on the team. And I'd sit down and say like, hey, what if we use KQL to accomplish this? And it got to the point where like, I was myself, when working with clients, like going out of my way to use KQL to solve problems. And they loved that. And then I hand them a query and they can use that in their environment for the long term. So really, really big change to the education that we do on our team.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I didn't pay them anything for that. So
I know.
You didn't. Yeah, that was free marketing.
I'd have to tell you, Rod, not just him being a buddy and a friend of mine, he's in the top 6 or 7 KQL guys I know, which I don't know that many people in the world. He's one of the top 7 guys. I think the person that he reminds me of, big shout out to you, Mike Cassis. I don't know if you know Mike Cassis, my MCAS mentor from years ago, who told me about Kusto query language a long time ago. Said, this is going to be the future, Ed. I'm like, sure it is. Yeah. But anyway,
I love it.
Good stuff, man. You were talking about, we're going to let you guys get to the heart of why you're on the podcast. Like you said, you guys do so much stuff. We're going to talk about your Okta to Entra solution, your transition or migration solution. But in my realm, when I work with you or bring people on, you are purview heavy. You have some of the top purview guys I've met, who do it. Tell me a little bit about that, not without going into too much depth about that, because we want to make sure our listeners understand the breadth of your capabilities and abilities, but actually get back to what we're going to have you on for. Just give a little bit about purview, because that seems to be the thing now. And Brody's a purview type of dude. So yeah, you are modest.
And a lot of people don't realize, but I'm super interested to hear what you have to say, because I start my new role at Microsoft this week, and guess what?
It's within your purview.
Nice.
It is.
That's amazing. Rod, what is your role specifically? What's your title? What are you doing?
Just senior product manager, but yeah,
Who's
working on purview and AI, of course. So
amazing. So excited.
We should connect. We should connect about other things. So that'd be
cool. I'll probably bother you nonstop with data stream of all the things that we're doing and let you simmer that in. We have done Purview for a very long time. So I started at Cyclotron probably about 6 years ago. And one of my first projects was Purview. At the time, we hadn't done a lot and we were fledgling. And then gradually, as we started building frameworks and showing, there's a right way to do things in Purview with industry, we ended up growing. Team increased in size 10 times. And now we have a dedicated Purview team that is, I think, our largest volume of work across our team as a whole. We've done over 250 Purview engagements in some capacity, whether it be a POC, readiness assessment, a full deployment. Most of our customer base, I believe over 80% of our customer base is enterprise accounts. So we're talking accounts ranging between 5,000 seats and 100,000 seats. Pretty normal scenarios for us to get into, where we're having these very large scale deployments, trying to help organizations get a handle on data classification, data leakage scenarios, the compliance posture internally, their risk management posture, and trying to quantify that in a meaningful way. And the vision that we have for Cyclotron, at least our Cyclotron security practice vision, is we want to see every customer that invests in Microsoft 365 security compliance capabilities or Azure capabilities realize at least 2 times ROI in their investment. And so how do we do that, right? We do it through cost consolidation, tool consolidation, risk reduction, security improvement, automation, right? We leverage these concepts to make our customers successful. We've done so much. I've had, especially in the early days, a few bad Purview deployments. You'll learn a lot from a bad Purview deployment. You'll learn a lot from a customer that you deploy with, and then you get to the pilot stage and legal switches everything up last minute because they didn't have express approval that this business unit was going to deploy classification to everyone. Other times you get customers that deploy Purview. This is early on. We've learned our lesson, but you deploy Purview, you're all happy. You deploy classifications. You see people start using it. A year and a half later, you go back to that client and you say, "Hey, how are things going?" And this company was like, "Well, we've had 40 files labeled this month." And I'm like, "Okay, how many users do you have?" And they're like, 3,000. Like, okay, we're really missing the mark here, right? Users aren't leveraging classifications the way that they need to. So over time, partly just because I'm a very opinionated person, and so are the rest of our architects and engineers and managers on the team, we have developed a right way to do Purview. And it really starts from the customer's data classification policy. It starts from involving their data governance, their legal, their IT teams, their security functions, explaining to them all of the value that Purview as a broad suite can show, from pretty much everyone in the room has some sort of stake in, like, you're going to get a benefit out of this project. So let's get you in. And then we refine and we update their data classification policies. We design the tools and more. But I could get into the methodology. I do want to mention, though, especially because there was a previous question on, you guys do a lot. We have shifted really from just the technical implementations now to program level implementation. So we don't really think anymore like, okay, we're going to go in and do this Purview POC or do this Purview deployment, right? Now we're thinking enterprise governance when we come in. We're establishing governance programs so that they can justify spin-off of multiple projects that are going to land within the compliance space, within the Copilot space. So with some ones that we were doing more recently with clients, one large enterprise account, we're doing a enterprise governance program for AI. So this is not branded in any sort of Microsoft way, which I think is really important for this, because although I love Microsoft as a company and we are all Microsoft all day, you can't just come in and shout Microsoft and say, this is going to change the way we do business, right? You have to start with the concept of Gen AI, what it means to the end user, and then develop it from there. So we've got this enterprise governance framework that we are doing more and more with clients now, where we're coming in at kind of an executive level saying, here's the ROI we want to see, here's the key objectives that we want to meet in this program. We're going to run the program for you. We're going to bring in experts in this area from a technical perspective, from a policy perspective, from an end user perspective, and then use the governance board that meets on a regular basis to justify kind of the platform level implementation, and then from there, inside of that, the tool level implementation. So this kind of 3-tiered architecture is we work with the CISO, with the CIO to define security objectives and requirements, ROI, what we're expecting the vision to look like, and then we have a regular board that meets on how we execute that vision. We use that to spin out deployments, like we're going to POC the capabilities of Endpoint DLP to make sure that your data is classified on your devices. We're going to leverage classifications to make sure that your infrastructure is classified and protected with mapping and lineage. Then we're going to use that along with our employee experience practice to make sure that the end user impacts are addressed as expected. This really helps the end user from a lot of challenges that happen with Gen AI especially, but also Purview as a whole. Both of these, I could go on forever about this, but both of these have unique challenges. Like Gen AI, you got to know that the users aren't going to just try to go to ChatGPT and use the tool, right? You have a bungled Copilot deployment, people will just go use whatever Gen AI tool they want to accomplish their use case. So a big part of the framework that we have to use is how are we planning to enable the end user? And then from there, what are we doing to secure approvals processes for Gen AI apps? What about your new apps that you already have that are adding Gen AI, for example? Or sorry, existing apps that are adding Gen AI capabilities. Canva did that the other day, right? Organizations use Canva all the time, create content, and now Canva is using Gen AI capabilities. And what does that mean for your security framework? Right? Do you have anywhere near like application approval policies that talk about how a Gen AI app can use your data foundation, whether it can share that data in the model with the app vendor? What are your security and privacy boundaries? Do you have logging on what is asked and what's responded to? So, and then we take that and integrate that not only for like Copilot, but also really Gen AI as a whole, or applications as a whole, or maybe the overall IT governance program. So that's been our work lately, has been like much bigger than just, hey, let's get Purview deployed in the environments. Like, let's tell a whole story about how we can enable the business from an ROI perspective. And then the Purview deployment becomes an overall part of that, right? And then we talk Defender, we're talking about Purview in Azure, we're talking about the employee experience side of adopting Copilot effectively, and all these come together to make these programs that we've been running with customers.
As the Purview guy, Nathan Berger knows what he's talking about. Done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I love that, because that's the whole story. You've literally cut, like we said before, it's a security buffet. You've literally covered everything and every aspect of it. So I truly appreciate that.
I'm curious around the origin story of that employee experience piece, because often, even if there's like a holistic approach, that change management dimension is typically overlooked. And so I'm curious what prompted the inclusion of that aspect, because that, to me, it seems like that's really driving the success forward motion and building adoption amongst the organizations that you engage with.
You have to threaten people with legal. You have to tell them legal said we had to do this, so change, and then go sign off on these change leaders, and then tell people they have to do it, and then don't put the power within them to decide what to label. sorry. I need that. I've been through all of these hilarious. We didn't include legal. That would have been a good idea. Oh, we thought the users themselves would love this and label everything themselves.
Right.
Like it's just like, these are the things you learn, it's hilarious. Sorry, Ray, to Bogart or to get on top of your question there, but anyway.
No, it's good. So Ray, to answer your question directly, there's probably 3 or 4 combined things that just came together for us to integrate this as part of our standard approach. One of them is just, obviously we had a change leadership team for other areas. They've rebranded recently to employee experience, and really that's the right branding for it, right? We have this incredible employee experience team that had been doing great work in Power Platform, had been integrating here and there across our security projects. And we want to honor the work that they do, because they just add so much value to making sure that like the pilot and deployment go well in any project, right? Tying the end user experience changes directly back to business value, giving the stakeholders a voice in front of the users in a way that really matters for them. There's so much that we can talk about there, but a few other reasons, right? We had some bungled Purview deployments very early on. I mean, not bungled. They weren't like bad, but coming back later is like, wow, we could have done a lot better on this. There was bigger value that we could have achieved, right? So deployments where users weren't interacting with labels very much, it didn't really mean much to them. We do interviews after the fact. We discover that, the labels weren't really being used at all. DLP was good, but hadn't been tuned well over time. Something else to talk about with Captain there later. But a few other things, business involvement, employee experience is just better at communicating with stakeholders than we are. We're all cybersecurity nerds. We're trying to sit there and learn KQL every day, but we're not thinking about how is this healthcare worker, working with their patient workflows. How is our frontline worker going to interpret the changes that we're making when all they're doing all day is working on a manufacturing line, trying to be as efficient and high quality as possible. And then you got IT breathing down their necks, trying to tell them, you've got to change the way you do things. And we're like, okay, we aren't really thinking about the user first. So that's part of the kind of key justification for how we've done this. Now, we made that change, and now our Purview deployments are a lot more successful, which I believe, I'm not saying they weren't successful before, but the value that the employee experience partner brings to those projects is just wild to me, right? And at first, the first few projects that I did where I was an architect and we had one of them alongside, I was a little bit kind of flabbergasted. I was like, I don't see why we need this. Like, that's not really true. It was in the trenches of the thing. It was more like they're speaking Greek. Like, I don't understand why they're spending so much time talking about the change process, and then I got to see the end of it where they built the communications, they built the stakeholder champion networks, all the materials that they had, and the way that they go about it. Our employee experience practice likes to say we're not just comms and training, right? Comms and training matter, but it's really about how does the vision of the project see through all the way to the end user experience, and then everything that comes in with that, right? Stakeholders are a big part of that. The communications patterns, the concepts of communicate early and often are all of this. So we've just seen a lot more Purview success and a lot happier customers when we integrate the people side of this into the process and tool side of this that we're already dealing with.
Awesome. That's extraordinary. I think that that's very refreshing, and obviously a testament to opening up even more opportunities internally for Cyclotron to grow as it's done. And so I'm sure that success feeds into the product group as well, taking lessons learned and that touch base that you have with the boots on the ground folks, the doers, and getting those insights and understanding how you can amplify the value with your innovations and incubation. So I think this might be a good time to shift gears. Are there any gears in Beam? Keep me honest. Are there?
Well, and to be honest, I was not anticipating being this excited about the purview stuff, but just listening, because it is kind of my purview these days. This has been a really good discussion. I'm actually really interested to dig into it more, Nathan. So we'll definitely.
So maybe, if I may, two things that I think are really important on there. We will talk about these, or at least these are on the agenda that I wanted to talk about, and I think we'll have enough time for Beam as well. But the first is what Captain is. We've there've been a lot of MDR partners out in the world, those that are focusing on threat detection and response. But we found that we just have a huge customer base that struggles with, once they get Purview deployed, doing something meaningful with it. Can't tell you how many times early on I met with clients, came back to their Purview deployments. They're like, well, we deployed DLP and it was working great. And then, this person left and they were owning it, or this whole team left. We changed responsibilities and now a new team owns Purview, and we, are struggling to understand why it was set up this way. Our DLP policies, our data is starting to look a little bit different than it did before. So our policies aren't tuned well anymore. They weren't maintained over time. And now we're losing the value in it. We deployed inside of risk management, but now we're seeing false positives, and we got to figure out how to tune this thing. And there's 300 settings in this product that you can adjust to fix that. And we don't know which ones. We've tried a few. We just got so much feedback like that. We realized, what we got to do is we got to just throw our experts in and manage this for them, right? And that's a really tricky thing to do conceptually. Owning a threat detection in an environment is hard enough, right? From an MDR perspective of being on top of alerts, proactively tuning an environment and more. And most mature MDR providers are doing that today. We partner with some of them. We really like some of the work that they do. Defender experts as well. We really like that. But from the perspective of Purview, it's a whole different ballgame, right? It's a little bit of threat detection, but it's also understanding data classification, what an organization's change culture looks like for adopting data classification effectively, regular tuning of sensitive information types to improve it, showing data discovery, not impacting the environment negatively, right? As an MDR partner, the only time you're going to impact an environment negatively is if you deploy a security control proactively, which isn't usually a primary focus, or you lock a user out who's getting attacked. So most of the time you have justification to do this stuff. But a lot of customers, and really why we've built this service, is because these customers are looking at their DLP initiatives and going, well, DLP looks really great. Let's set up some policies in audit mode. So we do that. And then they go, we're stopping there. We don't have business justification to move forward anymore. And also, who's going to own this? And I mean, who does really own it, right? Is it data governance? Is it compliance? Is it SecOps? Is it IT? Is it legal? Because everyone cares about what comes out of these alerts, but no one wants to say it's mine. Everyone wants to say, well, we've got to bring in this other group. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that, asking pointed questions where people are like, oh, well, we got to bring in Joe from data governance. He's really important. And then we bring in Joe and he's like, we should bring in IT. And so we bring in IT, and the IT goes, this is really a legal thing. And then everyone's on the call and we're all just shouting at each other. It's not really true. We don't shout at each other. We just stare silently and see who's going to unmute first on Teams. But what we've done is we've built this service called Captain, and it's two things. It's a managed service and it's a tool that goes alongside it. So the managed service component is compliance as a service. It's managed Purview platform capabilities to justify and improve compliance across the organization. Now, I'm not going to lie about the age of this tool and service in any capacity. We're about a year in at this point, just slightly under. We've got a few customers that are onboarded in the HLS space and a few others as well. We are super excited to see how that's going so far, right? Customers seem happy so far. Purview deployments are going well, justifying those two. But they have to involve an onboarding process to make sure that Purview is deployed to an effective standard, and then it has to involve way more business process integration than it does like an MDR service. So there's communications with legal, communications with data governance. When do you want to get involved? Onboarding documents, stuff like that. And so the process has been getting those clients in, showing them the value of the tool, tuning it for them. The burden of tuning definitions in Purview is ours, and it's ours during the deployment, but it's theirs to provide feedback. In this case, now it's ours for Captain forever. It's our job to make sure that their regex is tuned, that their keywords are tuned, right? The insider risk is tuned all the time because the way that people work changes. And so we got to keep that up to date. But really, it's compliance as a service. The whole justification of this is let's make sure that you're, HIPAA compliant, that you're at least driving toward that as far as possible. We haven't gone as far as to integrate, certification for compliance and auditing into our service, but we do own the entire Purview platform using Compliance Manager and more to justify and show and track that organizations are making progress with really everything related to whatever compliance or security standards that they want to adhere to. So that, with the integrations in Defender for Cloud, with the capabilities that are in Purview, as well as a few kind of secret sauce stuff, a few secret sauce things that we've got in our own tool that Nicholas will talk about. We're just super excited. We're seeing a lot of value from clients right away. It's a big part of the way the organization has shifted. Yeah. So that's part of why we're in MISA. We have a few other things for MISA as well, but that's a big focus for us.
I think just based on this amount of time that you talked about this, and I think I need to get some buy-in from my co-host. We need to have a Purview month because this is a thing now, and
it just became a thing.
When you threw Compliance Manager out, you were sort of referencing what sort of built in and bolted back on versus what it used to be called when you had the little spreadsheets that they put in a website and thought it was Archer. Back in the day, right? So it's not actually, but I think that you probably have garnered the ability for us to create a dedicated month called the Purview Month, and we definitely want to see that. You said one more thing, and I was trying to write down. You were getting it. I couldn't quite get it down. If it comes back to me, well, I'll ask Nicholas as he goes on. But you said something that was really interesting about one of the things that you guys go about. Because I know what it is. I wrote down Epic. I couldn't figure out what it was. Not Epic as this is Epic, but Epic as the software digitalization company that if you find yourself attached to one of their projects at the same time doing Purview, you're there 5 years. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be there because their projects run long. But let's pull that off, man. Maybe a Purview month. You come on, just one of the co-hosts or something.
Well, I think what I kind of get a sense, and what I really like about this. So we've talked about Purview, but then again, going back to the security buffet thing, what we're talking about is literally applying tools to the basics of security. Well, what are we talking about here? We're talking about data security, right? And we also have the other product, Beam, which is one of the other pillars for Zero Trust, right? Which is identity. So I love this. We have talked about for so long at Microsoft with our customers around, hey, just do the basics. You don't understand how that it may not seem like a security thing, but it impacts security. So covering those basics are super important. And I really love this.
I appreciate that. It was a few complex Purview deployments that have happened in the last year that have really made my head spin. Working with names that listeners would recognize on, major tech companies, the major, consulting organizations, financial, a huge amount of healthcare focus from our Purview deployments. We work really, really close with the Microsoft Purview HLS team. And it's just a huge focus that we have for the employee experience side too. But we did one last year that ended up being an organization that was pretty large, but brought on and spun off other organizations on a regular basis. So we built a Purview framework for them that they could expand into every organization for mergers, acquisitions. And we spent time with a few of them proving out the framework and submitted that. And then we won Compliance Partner of the Year from Microsoft last year for the work that we had done, which was just super, super cool. So there's a little bit of bragging there, but for the most part, our primary focus on Purview has been how do we make sure that we see the entire success story, because it's so easy to deploy DLP and labels and then call that Purview. Right?
Now, do you hear from customers? This is something I hear. I don't know if you hear this as well. Maybe it's just me, but a lot of times customers think of DLP and they don't associate Purview with it because Purview, right, is a brand or a product name. but everybody knows what DLP is, or but they rarely like purview,
Yeah, I think part of our process, we are often involved when a client has already learned a little bit about what purview, usually not enough to make a thing. But when you say DLP becomes like a 4-letter word, which is really funny because we got enough TLAs, right? But some customers, I cannot tell you, probably at least 5 in the last 6 months, where I've been brought in, to either account executive or talking to Microsoft, and I get a gentle nudge saying, "Don't say DLP in front of this client. Whatever you do, DLP is a bad word." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Just say information protection. Just say like purview. Just say E5. Just say something that's not DLP. Because the moment you say DLP, they're going to have trauma from their last deployment where it shut down the business for 5 days." We're like, okay, we're like walking into a minefield here. But that's what we see when we run into DLP. Everyone knows what DLP is. Some people are terrified of DLP. But DLP is such a funny concept because there's a tool in Purview called DLP. But for the function of what organizations are looking to accomplish with DLP, there's 6 different solutions in the Microsoft stack that can do it, from labeling with encryption to insider risk management to communication compliance to the auditing and monitoring components, with the Copilot DLP features that are out there now with labeling, right? All this comes together in a much more comprehensive information protection story than really just the features of DLP do.
Maybe anyway, if it was a 4-letter word, it would be DLFP. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I think some of our customers would use that phrase.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, we Nicholas, he's being super patient there. Going back to kind of that zero trust or that zero trust model, again, looking at the basic pillars. So we've got the data protection, right? The data security, which is absolutely important. And conversations I've had with customers, this is something that they've really delayed doing forever. I don't want to inventory they know they need to inventory their data. They know they need to know what data they have, but they're so super reluctant to do it. Obviously, Purview helps with that. But there's that whole other side, just the data access or just profile and stuff like that, which I assume is where Beam comes into play, because you had me right at the beginning when you said that you can do an Okta to Intra migration. I don't know. Did you say it's record breaking? Is that how you put it? I'm not sure.
Well, it is the world's first IDP migration platform, but you're absolutely right. If anybody was keeping track, then Beam would be breaking those records. We are able to, with the help of our automation suite, accelerate these kinds of migrations from taking months or even years in some of these larger enterprise environments down to weeks for the same amount of effort. And so it really has been a staggering impact on how we operate when we're performing these kinds of migrations. And, getting off of Okta and onto Intra is probably one of the most difficult, painful, time-consuming migrations that exist. Everyone's done an email migration, a migration to Exchange, a migration to OneDrive, SharePoint, all of that. They have their own headaches, but it's a path that's well known. These IDP migration projects are very, very difficult and very complicated. And what we've done is we've made it simple.
So what's the reason behind why is it so difficult? Is it, again, going back to what Ray was talking about, the change management process, or is it just such a difference in standards between the two different technologies?
Totally. So there are going to be a few pieces that make this such a difficult migration. The first is going to be probably the most obvious, which is the technical. IDP migrations require you to not only ensure that all of your identity objects, your users and your groups and such, are carried over into Intra, but also the actual SSO applications themselves. And those SSO applications, I hate to break anybody's burst anybody's bubble here, but they are almost never one-to-one between IDPs, right? Pretty much every single time you're going to find that there needs to be some kind of intelligence transformation between the configuration that you would find for those applications in Okta and what Intra expects for the same exact functionality. The other piece that is going to take a tremendous amount of effort is, you nailed it. It's going to be on that change leadership side of things, that change management. And that's going to be all on working with the application owners to actually perform these cutovers and involve them in the process for migrating from Okta to Intra. If you're a larger enterprise organization that has thousands of applications and potentially thousands of app owners, that can be a significant lift.
Yeah, it can be. I got pulled into something that was totally out of my water last year to help out with that. And I had to have a recrash course in single sign-on because it is much more involved than the 3 letters that included, doing that. And you saw Salesforce and all these integrations and APIs and all, and I'm like, I'm out of my water here a little bit. But yeah. So let me ask a quick question. You have this tool, it's the Beam, and someone is desirable to leave from Okta and go to Entra, and they brought you guys in and want to use this tool. What is the number one compelling reason, that you find this? Because if you're selling this tool, I'm trying to understand, did someone find you and say, hey, we got to get off this because of what? Yep. Or did you sell the tool and say, you need to get off of that because of this? What's one of the compelling reasons that you guys do that?
Absolutely. So the biggest reason why an organization wants to leave Okta and go towards the new horizons on Intra is going to be consolidation of their technology stack. And that can include a significant cost savings. So if they are already paying for all of the licenses that are required in Intra, which most of these enterprise organizations are already paying for E3, E5, or even a lesser license that includes the Azure P2 that's required in order to perform single sign-on, then they can save 100% of their Okta cost each year or every 3 years that they're renewing that cycle. So that's going to be probably the number one reason that organizations look to consolidate and look to make that jump from Okta to Intra. But outside of that, there's other really compelling reasons, like the native integration of your SSO applications in Intra with the rest of the Microsoft 365 stack, right? It integrates with cloud apps, right? Microsoft Cloud Apps, Defender for Cloud Apps. It integrates with just about everything in the Microsoft stack. And consolidating is the only way that you're really going to get the full power out of those E3 or E5 licenses you're already paying for. So
Nicholas gets a shirt because he said Defender for Cloud Apps, aka MCAS. So he's automatically a friend of the show. We'll get his shirt size. He'll get a podcast shirt. Thank you, Nicholas. You've already nailed it. No need to go anything further. You're a friend of the show forever, right? You just talked about the best product Defender expert, the Defender XDR has. But go ahead.
A few more reasons that we hear from our customers. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard directly from a customer. It's not that we like Okta. It's just that we have Okta. And I know that might be offensive to some Okta customers, but I've heard it enough to the point where I put it on a slide. I've just had it quoted to me so much. The reality is a lot of Okta customers are leveraging the Microsoft stack as well, in depth. They own their Intra P1s or their Intra P2s as part of their E3 or 5s, and they look at the differences between the IDP platforms. They had a previous team that implemented Okta because they were told Okta is the best, and there's nothing else besides Okta, right? And then the new team comes in and goes, what's happening in this IT estate? So they, start doing the budgets, they start doing the cost analysis, they start looking up, they start Googling, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Okta owns the SEO world like full. If you search anything with the word Okta in it, the entire 1.5 pages of Google results are always Okta pages. And Okta has so many compete pages on their website about how does Okta help secure Microsoft 365? Why should you use Okta instead of Entra? Like that kind of stuff. They're incredibly aggressive. So it's hard for customers to even find the information to determine what the right move is. But when they sit down, they do these analyses and we talk to them and guide them through it. Okay, let's talk about risk-based conditional access. Let's talk about core SSO capabilities. Let's talk about identity governance features. They quickly discover 99% of the time that the features that they're using in Okta are one-to-one in their Microsoft licenses, and all of them go, oh, okay, we have got potential for millions of dollars of cost savings.
Yeah.
But getting from point A to point B is a nightmare. Because everything that Nicholas said was true, right? The rationalization of the users, groups, and objects and attributes in your Active Directory, your sync rules, your federation scenarios, your applications. You got to talk to every app owner across your environment. 2,000 applications in an environment we were talking to one customer about the other day. That means 2,000 times that you got to go run the same call. Hi, my name is Nathan. I'm the architect on this project. I'm a third party. I'm coming in to change the way you do things. It's the most critical application that you have for your business, and I'm going to just point it somewhere else, and you're going to trust me, right? It becomes a whole thing where we really have to be sure with a data-driven methodological approach that we're going to reduce the effort. Customers' internal estimates, Nicholas, what would you say is a typical non-Beam timeline for a project for migrating from Okta to Entra, stuff we did before we had the tool?
Absolutely. It certainly depends on the size of the environment, but when we're talking like enterprise environments that have, the most kinds of complexity, we are talking about, 3 to 6 quarters on average to complete that kind of migration.
Easily.
This can be anywhere between hundreds or thousands of applications, and typically these kinds of environments are going to have tens of thousands of users, potentially hundreds of thousands, especially with those varying user types.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, we look at what the current solution is and the technical stuff in our day job, is that we forget. If you do enough research, Okta got in front of themselves. They were just like Centrify. You're a migration tool to be able to bridge stuff together. You wanted to be ping, but you could not be. So you tried something else, and then you decided, how many people use you as a identity authority solely, and you realize the limitation of it because you don't have integration with all the other things. Ping is sort of like been around forever, right? But it knows its lane, and it's still very much used. But what happened to Centrify? You guys remember Centrify? Still out there trying to use that stuff. So Okta got itself and got too big for its britches. Hey, and I don't have anything against the Okta folks, just like you guys said. I just saw it. I saw what it was used for. It was very good. And then when it started trying to become the governance, identity, and authentication fabric, they got in front of themselves quickly because there was no integration consideration. They started going out to market dominance, and you picked a fight you could not win, right? The secret of being an 800-pound gorilla is to go fight a 100-pound gorilla. That's the secret. If you don't fight an 800-pound gorilla, you're going to fight a smaller one, right? And that's what happened to them. Hey, good stuff. They do the thing. They do what they're supposed to do. But when you talk about long-term sustainability and being able to integrate, you set out of your water. And they go. But hey, so with your Beam product, we hear about all the nuance and the headaches and the pain in the buttocks about how to get this thing up. How do you make it good? I hate when executives say this. How do you make me not stay up at night? How do you say what keeps me up at night? What do you guys do with this Beam?
Absolutely. How about I just show you?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Who was in the
I love
play?
TV. I love TV. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Hopefully you're able to see Cyclotron Beam here. There we go. Popped up. All right. Yeah. Welcome to Cyclotron Beam, the world's first IDP migration tool specifically designed to accelerate your migration from Okta to Entra.
You've really nailed that sales pitch. I love it.
Yeah. It might sound like I've made that line a few times, huh?
You nailed it so well. I'm not even going to fact check. I'm just going to take it for his word. Because he said it. The world's first. Like, he must be first. He said it.
Said it with conviction.
I know.
Good.
Let me
Sure.
see it.
All right. So just to dive into things, setting it up is, it's pretty easy. You just walk through a little setup wizard. It's going to connect to your Okta and Entra instances and start pulling in all of your data from Okta and Entra. And all of that data is going to get become available here within the platform, and it's going to be processed in a lot of different ways. We have a few main modules here that we'll go over. Discovery, remediation, and migration wizard. And yeah, absolutely dark mode. I can blind you for a second.
No.
I have sensitive skin, so I prefer the
Vampire.
So all of this data is all going to be pulled into Beam here, and we're going to start off just looking at the discovery. And discovery is all designed to give your organization an opportunity to understand your environment, both where you're coming from and, of course, where you're going, and understanding the relationship between those environments. So right from discovery, it's going to be a lot of stuff here. This is a demo environment that it's real. It's all real data, but it's of course a environment that we use specifically for these demo purposes. We're going to see a ton of graphs and charts and things like that. Everything that's in this environment is all clickable and easily digestible right here through the platform. We can, the very first thing that organizations tend to do is an assessment, right? And so that assessment is going to be going through everything that's in this discovery and remediation phases in order to understand exactly what the lift is going to be in order to pull off this kind of migration. One of the very first things is going to be just looking at your users, groups, and apps, and how they're actually being used in your existing Okta environment, right? Are there actually going to be a ton of identity objects like users or groups, or even whole applications that aren't actually used anymore and don't need to actually be migrated? How much can we actually just reduce your headache before we even lift a finger to start migrating these things? So with your users, it's right away. Okay, boom. We can see here that 3% of this demo organization actually has stale users, meaning that they haven't even logged in the last 90 days. So these are accounts that have just been, that we immediately highlight that, hey, these probably don't deserve to continue to exist in your environment. Typically it's going to be those pesky guest users, or as Okta calls them, everything is a user that requires a full license. There's no differentiation between any of those users. So that very first thing is going to be just going through and just seeing what kind of objects exist in your current environment, and what can you do to lessen the burden throughout this migration.
I like it. Just for the listeners who aren't able to see the screen share here, we're going through and showing rationalization between the entire Okta tenant and the intra-tenant for users, groups, and applications. Things like which assets are actually being used in the environment, which ones aren't. It shows priority of applications. It actually lists out exactly what's there, what type of SSO method it's using, and more. All of these are attributes that are intended to make this as easy for someone as possible to understand the level of effort it's going to take to match up their directories. And then, not to spoil things for a moment, but we're about to get into remediation, which you will see some one-click options to fix.
Yeah, that's a good call out for those listening in. There are demos, so if you stop in and watch the live replay, either on the site or on YouTube, stop by about an hour in, and this is when the demos start. So make sure that you stop by to see those.
And this is TechHeavy month, where we are highlighting demos from all of our guests this month. I'm liking the juxtaposition in your UI because it shows what is in Okta and then what is going to be ultimately in Entra.
Yeah, that's right. You can kind of just switch back and forth between all of your objects that would exist on both sides, users, groups, and apps, and just see how they compare on either side. And that would, of course, include the ability to see, maybe your organization is actually active in both Okta and Intra, and you don't even know which applications might exist in Intra already and which still exist in Okta. And, it's just kind of a bunch of mystery surrounding all, your environment. And we can just see the answer at a moment's glance just by looking at your environment here in Beam.
Now, you did say something. I'm gonna split hairs a little bit, even though I don't have any. We've been using the word interchangeably between user and identity. So is your product, your solution, managed identity friendly?
So Beam is all about ensuring identity parity between your Okta and Intra environment and migrating those identity objects, should they need to be actually migrated from one to the other, or associating any existing objects that exist on both sides, and staging the applications that exist in Okta over into Intra, essentially one-to-one, as they exist in Okta today, including a ton of transformation that we'll see in a little bit.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that question is because I'm seeing that your type is app and web, which means that a managed identity of some sort or single sign-on has been put together. And if you're using web, that means that you are putting your secret in something else rather than an app. So maybe Key Vault or something. But you're using SAML 2.0, which is cool. And you're using OpenID Connect for our listeners who are not actually looking at this live. Go back and watch the rebroadcast. That's cool. I'm like, yeah. That
Yeah.
makes
So it's great.
a long time ago.
It's really great that you called out OIDC there, right? OpenID Connect, because that OpenID is one of the hardest nuts to crack when it comes to IDP migrations. And so Beam is actually able to determine the type of application coming in from Okta, and when it's staging it in Intra, it will actually stage it as the correct redirect URI configuration that is required for that application to function in Intra, despite most of the time having very different configurations required for any one particular type of application, custom or templated or otherwise.
Oh yeah, the landing URL for the API with OpenAID, that's a pain. You guys can do this. That solves a whole lot of problems. Being able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I do want to just, last thing I want to point out here on the discovery, although it's a pretty boring in our demo environment here, is our app popularity and weighted popularity charts. What all of this is designed to do is to help you understand which of your applications might have the most impact in your organization, so that your organization could be informed on which applications you might want to migrate first, last, together within a wave, or any other kind of bundle. So your app popularity here, that's going to be super basic, right? It's number of unique logins to an application over a period of time. But the weighted popularity chart also takes into account the number of users assigned to that application, so that you can understand which of your applications have a bigger impact when you are migrating those applications. For example, an application that might have 10 users assigned and all 10 log in 10 times a day could be weighted higher on that impact scale than an application that has 1,000 users assigned and only 100 of them log in once a week, right? So understanding that kind of statistics and having that available just at a glance or through any of the exports that are available on basically any screen that you see is really, really valuable to those companies.
Now I'm looking at this and I can see the application type is app, and I'm seeing third-party stuff where you have some accounts. I'm going to go old school. Maybe these are service accounts or service identities or managed identities or service principals, whatever they may be. Sounds like your app can do all of these. So you got Zoom showing up, Zylo, Zendesk, Salesforce. So it looks like you guys are doing a lot of that single sign-on type of activity with managed accounts to be able to do app integration. That's pretty good. I never heard of tinfoil before, but that's pretty cool too. So you guys are, man, probably beyond the scope of this show, probably need to go a little bit deeper. How are you mapping these identities across to bring those fields up? That's about, and I'm not an SSO expert, you're bringing in at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 configuration variables at the minimum to come in to do that, right? If I go to the SSO.
Oh, yeah. It is yeah. It's more than that, right? But it is all single sign-on protocols that Okta and Intra support. We are able to migrate with ease. So that's going to be your SAML, OpenID, your SWA, all of the various OADC types, which is going to be native, desktop, which would come over as a mobile and desktop app in Intra. Your web SPA, and of course your service, which is going to be like your API to API type of applications.
Now, do you guys cheat a little bit? Because what if the application exists in the marketplace? Does that help you guys any at all? You guys Okay.
So we are able to actually search for any template that exists in Intra during the actual migration process. When we get there, I'm going to show you that it's a, it will actually first detect if that is an application where we have an existing template for it and allow you to select it, or alternatively, just carry it over as a custom application, which most organizations, they're primarily custom SAML applications, basic stuff, but every organization has the more complicated apps like those custom OIDC apps, or any of those native applications which have their own complexity added to it.
Cool.
But yeah, let's take a look at some of the remediation here. So the whole idea behind remediation is to ensure identity parity between your Okta and Intra environments, so that when we are migrating applications, we can be certain that those application assignments will be assigned to the correct physical entity that those one or more virtual identity objects that exist on both sides might represent. So we do that in a lot of different ways. We have a ton of capability here within the configuration rules. So looking just here at the top of attribute matching, what we actually do here is we actually pull in the entire schema for users and for groups on both the Okta and Intra side, so that we can perform matching associations between the users and groups to really quickly just have that automatic processed matching between the two platforms.
Yep. And that helps create the right URL for single sign-on from the other side. Yeah, that makes you can choose multiple email login, all that.
Yeah, I mean, any attribute that exists in the user or group schema on your Okta or Intra tenants, you can select that, and it'll appear here. And then you can order it in a priority list. So if you have an environment that might have, multiple Active Directories, multiple Okta tenants, multiple Intra tenants, these extremely complex identity scenarios, especially those that have even third-party identities, identity providers, or startup authorities that are then provisioning into one or more identity architectures that exist within your environment, like an Active Directory or directly into Okta or directly in Intra or whatever. So we are able to, through the use of these like priority-based attribute matching rules, handle really any kind of complexity that might exist in a identity architecture.
Yeah, we can't overstate how important this attribute part is, right? This reduces human error by 99% in the projects. Any Okta to Entra can be killed by one person not getting an application and then highlighting that to their manager. And next thing you know, CISO shuts down the project. They're like, nope, you guys are breaking things. This is where we've fixed the vast majority of error that can occur in a project.
Right, it's essential for success. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw a statistic out there for you guys. On average, from what we've seen, there is a 5% delta between Okta and Intra environments.
What does that mean?
So what that means is that even if you are an organization that has exactly one Active Directory, one Okta tenant, one Intra tenant, and that Active Directory is synchronizing to both Okta and Intra, I can guarantee that you don't actually have perfect parity between your environments. And it's because it is very easy to create cloud mastered objects on either side that do not get synchronized down to Active Directory. And right there, you've broken your parity. And because you're using those objects as a part of your assignments in Okta today, you must ensure that you have those associations with objects in Intra, or create them in some way, or you will absolutely run into the same problem that Nathan just described, where people will get left behind.
I think they're trying to fix that a little bit with the new Cloud Connect, whatever that's supposed to be announced, that looks at attribute, don't make up a word, drift that you don't have. But you got a good point. That goes to my next question. So this takes into account multi-tenant, where you may have multiple Cloud Connects, and Active Directory synchronization. It really doesn't matter to your tool. So I'm going to ask this question. Where does this tool reside? Where am I installing it? Where is it overlaid? Where is it deployed?
It's a great question. So Beam is a SaaS application. It resides in our siloed Azure tenant, and 100% of all data and all processing and everything that is being done in Beam stays within that Azure tenant.
Whose tenant?
That would be our Cyclotron tenant, or specifically for the purpose of Cyclotron Beam.
So your migration tenant, station
That's
tenant.
correct.
Do it. And then
Yeah, which we understand we have a responsibility to safeguard and encrypt the data within our environment, right? We've got security standards in place there to make sure that that's true.
Well, that's easy. Now with the AD Connect to be able to do it, you set up those connections, but the secret between both of those, when you're done, you break the connection and you uninstall it and you're done, right? But that MSSPs do that stuff, right? They set up a staging environment and you blow away everything once you're done to be able to do it. But that's pretty cool. I'm going to ask a question, only because I see it here. Is all of this activity logged? Because you got logs.
Yep.
And if you're saying logging, where can I see it? Because, I'm a Sentinel dude. And I'm seeing my Sentinel environment light up because you guys are doing this. I forget the name of the attack when you're doing this with the identities, right? So where's this log? I can't even think of the name of that attack. You can just pull that.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Everything is logged in Beam. I mean, literally anything that anybody does within the tenant is logged with exhaustive detail.
Okay.
And that is all searchable and filterable and exportable, most importantly, to the administrators of the tenant.
So mostly in Azure activity logs or the identity login. Okay.
It is similar to like Azure activity logs. It's just as exhaustive, but it is everything that you might click on or change or do within the platform.
So that I'm the guy that's sitting here and I just come into work and my Defender portal is lit up. What alerts are you guys generating that's going to make me go, what the? Because somebody forgot to tell me that they were doing this inside my environment. So is this
the DLFP?
So during the discovery process, the only activity you would see in your intra-tenant would be read activity, right? So that's going to be things like your Graph API, and you may or may not see logs related to the internal API. That would be Microsoft's internal API, which Microsoft was kind enough to grant us exclusive access to for the purposes of IDP migrations.
Okay, so you guys are going to instead of the identity, you're taking a secret, you're putting it somewhere, not making it static, you're not coding it, you're probably putting key or whatever you call, or save it per project, right? Wherever you, what's the thing said? Make sure you copy this key because if you close this window, you'll never get it back. You'll never see it again. And you grab that key. I've been there and had to start over. So I get that.
So
that's pretty cool.
In Beam, nobody is able to actually see any private keys or anything that you would have provisioned within the application. It is stored double encrypted in the Azure database with both of course master Azure SQL encryption as well as individual siloed per tenant has its own database that exists under the SQL Server, and that is again encrypted utilizing a user key vault key that is inaccessible to anybody on the team here.
Okay. Well, before we run out of time and all the everything we got going on, sure.
Yeah, I mean let's jump into some of the migration wizard stuff because this is really where all the magic happens, right? So within the migration wizard, we're doing a ton of stuff here. So the very first thing is, of course, you can go in and select your favorite template, right? So if this fun application mock SAML were actually something else, well, we could go in and say, yeah, this is actually Zoom, the application Zoom, and select that for our our application template, and then it would utilize Zoom's application template for some of the configuration.
Yeah. And for our listeners, we're actually going through the migration. Please go back and watch the actual video. Their tool is mirroring, setting up an API, an SSO application as though you're working in Entra itself. So very, very good. I think mimicking what you would see in Azure. So just give you an example of what we're showing right now, since we're just talking. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I love that it's migrating apps. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yes. Go ahead. We'll interrupt you. We'll tell everybody. Make sure you go back and watch the video. We'll leave it at that.
Yep. Absolutely. So the first thing that we're going to see after selecting an appropriate template, SAML, OADC, or otherwise, is the configuration of that application, right? And this is going to be the basic SAML configuration that most of the people are going to be familiar with. In this case, we're looking at a custom SAML application, which is actually, despite being the most common type of application that exists in environments that we see today, it is the easiest to migrate as well, requiring zero actual configuration in order to ensure that it works over an intra outside of the actual cutover piece. So we can actually see here that we've pulled over the entire SAML configuration from Okta and plugged it into the areas that Intra expects for this type of SAML or SSO configuration. Now, this next section with the attributes and claims, despite what it might look like, there's a ton of stuff that's actually going on here to automatically convert all of your the attributes that exist in each claim for your single sign-on application to the intra-appropriate value. For example, on the Okta side, you might have an attribute within your claim like user.login, where user.login on the intra side is actually user.userPrincipal name, right? Exact same reference value, but completely different attribute name. So what Beam is doing is it's automatically going to convert all of those standard attributes that might exist in Okta to those standard attributes that exist in Intra. Mm-hmm. And it can also support some of those custom attributes that exist in your schema, because as you saw earlier from the remediation section, we're able to pull in the entire Okta and Intra schema and perform associations between those schemas.
Because in M&As, your login may not be your email. Your UPN may be what is different. And I've done that before. And you think everybody just assumes that your email address is your login. It could be something that's a disjointed UPN or a separate UPN because of mergers and acquisitions. So I can see how this works out, being able to tell me, what are we doing here, right? And then I understand. Now, and this helps you write your email to your end users. Hey, we're getting ready to do this. This is your login. So that makes sense right there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, in the access control, again, there's actually a ton of background logic that's occurring here. So one of the big things is if you were eagle-eyed earlier in the presentation, you might have noticed that there was actually only a single group assigned to this application in the discovery. However, we see 4 here. And so what happens? Well, the way that Okta and Intra handle nested group architecture is different. So most organizations, for better or worse, they like to leverage Active Directory's nested group capability, making a group a member of another group, a member of another group, until it becomes a snake eating its own tail. But the way that Okta handles that is by doing a flattening of that group so that any members of those like child groups become members of the parent group. And then you can assign either one to an application for the purposes of application assignment. But on the Intra side, Intra synchronizes those groups exactly how they exist in Active Directory, because Intra partially supports nested group architecture. It's happy to show you that a group is another member of another group in Intra, but there's a strict limitation for the purposes of IDP migration where you leverage nested groups as a part of your intra application assignments. So in order to support that kind of architecture where there's nested groups, which there almost always are, we are, through a discovery on the intra side, just assigning each nested group recursively to that application so that nobody gets left behind. And we kind of force the support of nested group architecture where there wasn't one before.
I love it. So
big shout out to everybody. Don't get used to it. That's going away.
So it's nuances like this that trip up these intra migrations, right?
Oh,
We do this so much with clients, and they say, "Well, we got partway through, and then we broke something," right? It's a bunch of little things like this that you don't think about, but I like it. Nicholas, I'm super stoked for you to show the cutover process and what that looks like.
Yeah, one other thing here within the application control, or access control, you also see that it'll highlight any remediation problems, right? So you rush through and you ignore literally all the warning signs throughout the entire process about, hey, you need to ensure that you have identity parity and this is how to do it. Once you actually get to migrating the application, there'll be a big orange box here that says, hey, you have groups that you need, or users that you need to remediate, or they won't be assigned to this application. And you can quickly do that from within this window. After that, it's all simple stuff, right? Branding, review the configuration, and then hit the execute button. And what that button will do is it will actually migrate the application and stage it over into Intra. For the sake of time, I'm going to do that with a different application. I want to show one other kind of application, super common, which is like an OIDC application, which has a very different kind of configuration. And we'll go ahead and migrate that app, and we'll see it come over. So,
do you guys also flag, because a lot of these applications will expire and they don't even know, these app registration and these things. So I'm looking at your dashboard. One thing I would love to see in your dashboard is the age or how long that a configuration was established, right? It sort of gives you an idea of, let's take a look at that to make sure. I ran into that something else,
You are able to see the age, both the age of an application as well as the last time it was modified through the Discovery tab. There is a ton of columns there that by default we hide because it's just, we have some of those sections have 30, 40 columns you could choose from, right?
Because when I create a spreadsheet, you can export this. I can go back and look at the age, and they can see all the 9 different versions of this API registration in this app because nobody's talking to each other in the organization. But this is great for M&A. You got an M&A going on. This tool you need all day. So to at least, because there's a discovery mode, right? Because I see, excuse me, I'm old. I can't hardly see these days. Oh, okay. Execute migration, review configuration, and then execute migration. All right, I get it. All right.
Yep. Yeah, what you're looking at on your screen right now is, the same migration wizard, but this time for OIDC applications, which I wanted to highlight because it is just such a different kind of SSO app, totally different beast. So in Beam, though, we kind of just made it a part of that same wizard process where you just go and look and say, yep, everything there looks good, and hit the go button, which is really nice. But in this scenario, the first thing we're doing is we're detecting that application type, which is very different between Okta and Intra. Because in Okta, the application itself has a particular type associated to it when you select OIDC for your app type. Right? Yep. Whereas in Intra for your OIDC apps don't have any explicit type on the app itself. Instead, you can associate any number of redirect URIs for your OIDC app in the various app type categories. So it's one granular step further on the Intra side, but that does add complexity to the migration process that we eliminate just by knowing all of the things ahead of time and automating that process here. Another thing you'll see is the, you might see some like notes and things like that. I chose a particularly complex app that triggers all of the alarms on purpose just to show you. In this example, we have these default Okta callback URIs, which are going to be the the Okta authentication library callback URI for that particular application. And these are super common because it's the default configuration. But on the Intra side, you actually have to convert that to the Microsoft authentication library equivalent. And so what we've done here is we are able to detect any of those default OIDC callback URIs and convert them automatically to the Microsoft authentication library type. And so
just
that's
leave it null without configuration, because that callback looks like a C2 to me. Like if you call them back to a legacy app. But yeah, I can see that.
Yep. And then other than that, it is all, pretty much looks exactly the same. You can review your configuration, you can hit the migrate button, you can hit the execute button, and it's all just going to go ahead and stage the application.
I tell you, you guys have solved a lot of things that within my limited range of expertise in this right here, but you didn't solve one big thing.
What's that?
Go get the right logo to put on the app, because whenever they want you to get the right logo, you never get the logo. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah. I skipped past it because it feels so basic these days, but absolutely. In fact, if you're looking at a templated application, you would see both the Okta app logo that they're coming from Okta. You would see the Intra logo for the Intra template for that application, or of course you could upload your own logo. But by default, it's just going to migrate over what was in Okta because that's what your users are used to seeing, and what they want to see in the user portal.
Yep.
That is so simple, but it is a big deal when you don't get the right logo that authorizes what version, what they're doing, and when you're using authorized applications, or especially around Intune and a few other things, right? You don't get the right logo, you got to pull it in. All right, you win.
The power behind this, though, is so impressive. I must assume that you host feedback focus groups with your customers. This seems bespoke, but this is such a common situation, especially for folks that are trying to harness the value of the licensing that they have today. They want to transition to a unified platform, the Microsoft story all up. So I feel like I have a few opportunities to reach out to Cyclotron about. That said, how do you make this as powerful as it is, and how do you continue to refine it? Do you have those touch points with your customers to make sure it's reflective of what they want to see and need to see?
Yeah, we have a truly endless backlog of things that we're asking Nicholas to code on a regular basis.
Oh, Nicholas, Code Man. All right, Nicholas, your name is the Code Man.
Yeah. I do have a team that does most of the coding for me at this point. However, I absolutely get my hands dirty and on this code base.
You get a little dangerous with it. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I got some customers for you guys. Y'all need to hit me up. I got some customers for you.
Yeah. I was listening to last week's podcast, and our guest was talking about vibe coding, and I was just sitting there like in the car listening to it, laughing because she was like, make sure that you're, testing it in test and not prod, and that you're taking, security principles into account, several security concepts. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm working on that right. Oh, you got to do that. I got to do that. Oh no. I was like feeling so called out because I was like, I was vibe coding.
Big shout out to Women in Cyber Month, bringing the power, bringing everybody to go back and rethink how they do.
Yeah, gotta do it. Yeah.
So I want to put a little button on this on the Beam side, if that's okay. In short, all of what you saw was Nicholas addressing, and really Cyclotron as a whole, addressing the specific pain points that we've seen stop and break Okta migrations, right? Customers want to realize the value of their Microsoft licenses, and it's really, really hard for them to do on their own. It's a huge, intensive labor effort. It's a ton of contacting app owners and more. There's parts of this tool that you haven't seen yet, and parts that are coming really, really soon that are super exciting about making the entire end-to-end process just so much easier. But what we've already got is cutting down migration times by 70%, right? It's taking customer scenarios where they want to adopt the E5 platform, but they want to use the identity features in it, but they don't want to pay for it unless it's their primary identity provider. We're seeing customers get rid of Okta in favor of using Entra because of this. It's just such a huge deal for customers. It's unblocking sales scenarios that we've been in for years, where Microsoft is trying to get a customer, to rethink their IDP architecture. They're like, well, we can't get off Okta. So we've just seen so much happiness from clients in this. It's been amazing.
And you found a pain point. You decided to go in. I can almost promise you, and I'm not part of your whole, software development and go to market strategy for tools. You did this for a lot with no money because there was no business yet. You saw the pain point. And you did it for free, hoping that somebody would buy this. I talked to some of your folks over there, like, man, we're going to build this because we believe people are going to buy this thing, and they need to buy this service. They really need to do it because when you're trying to do these things, you break their identity. It's the same thing as hacking the identity. I got you, right? With all these crazy applications, right? And my brain is sort of beating sweat because I'm like, you know what I could do with cloud app security around this and do a couple other things. But I think we need a part 2 of this conversation because AI is always part of everything. I have some AI questions, but we're up against the time right now. And that's going to compel you guys that you have to come back on the show. I want to ask some more questions of Nicholas. He got off easy today. With his little smoking yells in the back. You got to come back, Nicholas. I want to do it. Talk about
and we have to have a purview month
about AI.
We're going to have a purview month. We can sit here and say Cyclotron was a catalyst that made us have a dedicated month for purview. Now, whether Cyclotron used to come on, I'm just messing with you. I like it. I'm digging on you. We're going to have a purview month, and we want to really, really, really talk about that. I think Ray and I need to have a purview put together by abstract that we talk about. This seems to be the going thing, right? Well, guys, we really appreciate you taking time out your schedule coming on. I know that the gist and the title of the show was talking about the Beam application and this, but I'm telling you, I learned a lot about what and how powerful purview is becoming as far as the mainstay of what you're doing. It's real. Purview is talking about something that exists. It's not talking about what could exist. It's talking about data. And that's data. And when you can touch it, you can see it. When you can blame it on somebody who created it, it's data. It's not about trying to find a hacker who may not exist, right? Because if Rod and Ray and I and Brody are in your system, you're not going to find us. We'll steal Team 6. You will not find us. So you probably better go look at the data and see if you can find something, because you're not going to find my activity, right?
I'm in there. I'm in there now.
He's in there.
Right now. Look at that Nicholas stuff right now, right? So just kidding. Just kidding, everybody. We use our powers for good. Right. Nathan, my apologies for taking so long to get you on. This has been something we have on. So, part of our, thing that we come back, we would love to have you guys back sooner than later. We really want to focus down on part 2 of this tool. I don't, think we have to get down to the nitty gritty, but I do believe there's some other things you probably want to showcase. But I want to understand the power of purview from a Cyclotron perspective. This is the thing that's going on with AI, whomever AI, because Microsoft's AI is not the only person that's trying to take advantage of purview right now. That's how I know it's serious. Other companies are trying to make their AI take advantage of purview. I saw it today. Someone called me today and said, hey, we got to do this. Thank you so much. Thank our listeners for taking the time. I know that we are probably not our longest show, but definitely one that was super informative. Come back. This is Tech Heavy Month in April. Thank you, everyone that took part of Women in Cybersecurity Month last month in March. It was our best year yet. We're looking forward to doing a continuation of Tech Heavy, where everybody that comes on goes into deep dev demos. And next month is Partner Month. So we have a dedicated sort of agenda about how we go about that. But we want to thank Cyclotron and Nathan Berger and Nicholas Geil. Did I say your last night, Rep? Did I say it right?
Geil.
I did.
Like Jay Geil's band. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
For coming on the show and showing this. We are going to get you back. I want to see more of this, because I think that this is the thing. If any of our listeners Or any of our listeners have customers who are trying to get off Okta or trying to remediate some Okta liabilities? If you're not using Cyclotron as part of this solution, you're wrong. Don't be wrong, be right. Let's get it fixed. Let's be right, okay?
I couldn't have said it better.
And
thank you, everybody.
if you learned anything from this episode, Purview
Purview's
is
a thing now.
is a thing now.
Purview. I think I'm going to get me a Purview tattoo on one of these pythons. Ray, show your python. You know, Ray saw the, she's swole too. She be out there.
Oh, Lord.
She's swole.
Yeah, swole. She out there lifting. Hey, we will see everyone next Monday. We're looking forward to a continuation of our Tech Heavy, where we talk about deep dive technology experts that are coming on.
I think it's Nathan next week, right? Is Nathan on next week?
And so one more time.
Is Nathan Swift on next week? Is that who it is?
Who?
Nathan Swift. Isn't he on next week?
We have a
Swift?
Nathan rule. It's mandatory that Nathan's.
Whew.
Nathan Swift is the man.
Yeah, I feel better. I had a little panic. I was like, what?
Nathan. Now you were.
Oh yeah, Nathan's back. No,
star player.
Nathan
tonight.
Swift is on next week. Yeah, for Tech Heavy. So
Always stay on call, Nathan Berger.
I think Gary Bussey may come on as a guest host. He's a friend of the show. He's hosted the show before, so we may try to get him on. So some of us can take vacation and do that. That's why we get you guys on. So you guys are committed to being our host. So everyone, we'll see you Monday. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Brody, who had to leave. Thank you, Rod. Thank me for being me. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Nathan. Everyone, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Thank you so much.